Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How's everyone doing today? We are on the 20th night of Ramadan, so two-thirds, mashallah, of this blessed month have come to pass. And tonight we are also on our 20th hadith. For the recitation today, we finished the recitation of Surah An-Nur, um, and then we went into Surah Al-Furqan and finished it. And then we also started and finished Surah Al-Shu'ara. Shu'ara. So what is, first of all, Ash-Shu'ara mean? It means the poets. The poets. And on that note, I wanted to talk about a hadith relating to poetry. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dedicated a whole surah in the Quran to the poets. In the surah, not much is said actually about the poets, um, except towards the last page when he says subhanahu wa ta'ala وَالشُّعَرَاءُ يَتَّبِعُهُمُ الْغَاوُونَ, and the poets, basically they are followed by those who are astray. um, this doesn't mean poetry is bad though, and that's why I also want to mention this hadith today, inshallah. So I'll put it up on the screen right now. It's actually a continuation of the hadith we learned yesterday, recorded by Imam Bukhari. Inna mina shi'ri hikmah. And verily, in poetry is wisdom. The whole hadith goes, Inna min al-bayani la sihra wa inna min al-shi'ri hikmah. Verily, in speech there is magic, and verily in poetry is wisdom. You got to be careful here. Shi'r and sha'r. Shi'r means poetry, but if you say it with the fatha sha'r, that means hair. So you don't want to mix those up. Our Prophet ﷺ said regarding hair, Man kana lahu sha'run falyukrim. Whoever has hair, then let him take care of it. It's a blessing to have hair, as you know. Now, if you don't know, it is a blessing because there are many people who do not have hair. Anyway, moving on to poetry. Our hadith is not about hair today. But our Prophet ﷺ mentioned, and verily in poetry there is wisdom. This is pretty amazing because, today, if you look at most people, especially our youth, they're not really into poetry per se, but they are into songs. They are into music, and different types of music and so forth. This hadith does not justify music. I just want to clarify that. Poetry and music are two separate things. There is something very close to poetry today. It can be actually a form of poetry, actually. It's called spoken word, where you have artists that basically recite, poetry in a way, or they have their own way of reciting. Each person has their own unique way. There's a very famous Muslim spoken word artist. His name is Buna Muhammad, and some of you may have heard of him already. So he sends out good messages in his poetry and his spoken words, and in those messages, people can reap benefit. They are beneficial. They are not those that cause harm to others. There are types of poetry that can cause harm, and in regards to those, I want to mention that the music we listen to, or that people listen to, you got to be really careful because, as I mentioned, I think a couple days ago in one of the hadith sessions, the lyrics that you listen to sometimes, it can have a very bad effect on you. Very bad effect. In fact, I want to mention there was a hadith narrated by the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that it is better for someone to take in pus into their belly and allow it to rot rather than take bad poetry, which destroys the mind. Meaning, the wrong words can have a devastating effect on you. That is something remarkable that people overlook sometimes. These lyrics that you're always listening to, they have an effect on you, a serious effect, more than something like the Prophet ﷺ mentioned, like pus would have, on your stomach, even though it would destroy your organ. But this destruction of the mind is even worse. So you have to be really careful what you are listening to. It can lead to serious consequences. I mentioned the other day when I was at a barbershop some time ago, they were playing these rap songs. Um, with such foul language, such bad messages, to be honest with you. There was not a good message in those songs. And I'm there, but while the guy's cutting my hair and he's blasting it, but I'm paying attention to the lyrics of the song. And I'm like, this is just going to destroy people's minds. And you see that wisdom from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam saying, the mind is very, very delicate, and it absorbs whatever it takes in. So if you are constantly feeding it garbage, constantly feeding it venomous content, then the whole body will suffer, right? Your whole character will suffer. So it's very important that we listen to good things, youth especially. I know there's youth out there, all they try to do sometimes is just find some imam that will tell them music is halal or makruh. They'll say, oh, it's disliked, so I can listen to it. The reality is, my young brothers and sisters, and this may be a problem for some elders too, or elders, um, is that if you don't have the Quran in your heart, if you're not filling your heart, your ears, your mind with the recitation of the Quran, with the knowledge of Islam, listening to different lectures, hadith, or listening to good things in general, and you're filling it with all these other things, you're not going to even like when the Quran is played. You're not going to even want to hear when someone is telling you a hadith or a story of the Sunnah, because your mind has been um, basically taken away by these other outside powers, these other outside influences. So think of the effects it could have on you. Believe me, when you memorize a song, or, you know, some type of rap or whatever it may be, it will stay with you for a long time. In fact, it may even never leave you. It has that effect on the mind where it doesn't leave you. So, not here to tell you haram or halal. I think it's pretty obvious. If what you're listening to is bad, then how can it, be allowed? I mean, just ask yourself, right? Now, if you may say, oh, what if the song is clean? There's nothing wrong with the song. Um, in general, um, most of the scholars they mentioned, music itself, this is something that should be avoided because, once again, it has effects on the mind. Now, going outside, you can't avoid it, right? If you're in the gym, nowadays the gym is closed. But let's say you're in a gym, or you're even in the mall, you're out shopping somewhere, they're playing music. That's not something you're initiating. Inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is all merciful and all knowing. That is not something you're initiating. And if you happen to listen to it while you're there, that's another story. But you can still busy your mind with something else even while that is playing. But in general, if you're sitting in your car, um, you know, on your own, or walking somewhere, going on a walk, and you're bumping up music, just think, what could I do instead of this that can bring me benefit? Obviously, um, the benefit in those songs is very limited. In fact, it creates more emotions than any benefit a lot of times, right? Um, it just gets you to move and maybe memorize some lyrics here and there, but what are you really getting out of it? Imagine if you were to listen to something beneficial the whole way, a beneficial talk, some story about a prophet, about our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or any of the prophets in the past, some lesson from the Quran, something beneficial. even maybe even something in regards to what you're studying in school, or something you just wanted to learn, something in general about the economy that you can benefit from. There's so many things you can listen to that can bring benefit. I know this is really hard for kids, and you tell them to give up music, but rather than tell them to give it up, uh, what I'm going to say is busy yourself with beneficial things. If you busy yourself with beneficial things, you won't have time to go play music here and there. And what's another great alternative? We have nasheeds. We have beautiful singers. I mean, singers with beautiful voices, and they have beautiful messages in these nasheeds. These nasheeds are permissible, and they have a lot of great messages in them. One of my favorites, Mishari Rashid Al Aifasi. Beautiful voice. Not only is he a renowned Quran reciter, but he also does nasheeds. There's other people, um, and I guess if you, are familiar with different languages, there's people, in the Indo-Pak world. There's one that, was very famous. He passed away, Junaid Jamshed, rahmatullah alayhi. Allah have mercy on him. He had beautiful nasheeds. When you listen to those nasheeds, the translation of them, or if you know the meaning of them, beautiful messages behind them. They're actually very um, inspirational, motivational. So there's many alternatives, and believe me, there's all kinds of nasheeds online. There's another singer I want you to know. This guy does a lot of good work. His name is Omar Isa. Omar Isa. If you just type in OMAR, I believe ESA on YouTube. So what he tries to do, he comes up with his own songs too, but a lot of times what he does, he'll take like actual songs, in society that are famous, um, you know, like Hello from the Other Side or the Titanic or something like this. And he'll make a Muslim version of it without any music. It's amazing the effects he uses. It's all with his voice. Um, and he has a beautiful voice, but he's providing an alternative to the Muslim youth, to the Muslim world in general, to listen to something without music. And it can still sound great. I want you to check him out if you have a minute. He does some amazing work. But, at the end of the day, all these things, even the nasheeds, the poetry, they're only beneficial if they get you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right? They make you a better Muslim. They give you a better perspective on life. It should never take you away from the obligations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It should never take you away from salah. Even if it's a nasheed, even if it's poetry, if it's taking away from salah, then it is having a bad effect on you. None of these things should ever take you away from your obligations and being an obedient servant to our Creator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So seek other alternatives, inshallah. That's what I'm going to say. I'm not going to tell you haram, halal. I think the answers are pretty obvious out there, and there are many. And you may even find some that say permissible. But at the end of the day, ask yourself, and at the end of the day, ask, is this making you a better person, a better Muslim? Is it helping you fulfill your obligations to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or is it taking you away from that? Well, that's the question you really need to ask. Um, and of course, you want to fill your heart with the Quran as much as possible too. Um, I'd love to see more hufaz in our community, people who have memorized the Quran, because this is the way the Quran is preserved, by the way. It is through this oral recitation and memorization. Over the years, the last 1400 years, it was passed on through this recitation. One sheikh would pass it on to a student to his or her student, and this went on all the way, and it got to us. So today you could burn and take away whatever you want, every single Quran on earth, but we will still have the Quran because it is in the hearts of these 10 million plus Muslims all over the world, and that can never be taken away. Except when there comes a time where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes it away. But it is preserved through these people, of course, through the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His miracle. but He has made it easy for us to memorize. So, inshallah, try to memorize as much as the Quran as you are able to. I myself, by the way, I did not start memorizing till I was about 18. Um, I believe it or not, at one point I was not someone who was practicing much at all. And usually you're not supposed to talk about your past, but I'm only mentioning it so that perhaps it can provide someone some inspiration. But I was not very practicing. But one day I listened to the Quran, and I really liked what I heard. And it got to the point where, I kept listening to it, and I would just walk around, and all of a sudden I realized, I think I memorized a lot of this just listening to it over and over in the car. And then one day I just decided to sit down. I was like, man, let me see what surah this is. I don't even know what surahs were being recited. I had to research them, found the surahs. Like, let me see. And next thing you know, I'm as I'm reading them, I was able to memorize almost like half a juz just by listening to it. And then I read it a little bit. I was like, wait, I think I got this. And then I realized, I think Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given me some ability here. And next thing I took some time off college and I attended a hifz school here locally, IOK. And I was able to memorize the Quran, alhamdulillah, bi'idhnillah. Uh, and then I went on with my journey of the Quran, of course, later on. That didn't stop there, but with other teachers and so forth. But Allah bless all the teachers that helped me from day one. But I started at a very late age. But if you are young here listening, or if you have young ones at home, try to get them on it early as much as possible, inshallah. It's something that will stay with them, inshallah, for the rest of their life. But let it come from them. Don't let it be something that you are pushing and forcing on them. You should still encourage them to read it. That is our duty. And they should memorize a part of it. But when it comes to memorizing it in totality, let it be something, inshallah, that comes from them. But anyway, poetry. Um, as you know, the Quran, by the way, is not poetry, even though it rhymes. That's one of the miracles of the Quran, just the way it was put together. Think about it. We have stories of the past, of prophets. We have scientific miracles. We have, information about the creation of the heavens and earth and how things rotate and move around in the earth. And then we have commandments, you know, about how to live our life and what things are prohibited and what things are permissible. All of this combined, and it rhymes the whole way. I mean, verse to verse to verse to verse. It's amazing. And that is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions in the Quran that this is not poetry, nor did we teach the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam poetry. وَمَا عَلَّمْنَاهُ الشِّعْرَ وَمَا يَنبَغِي لَهُ. And we did not teach him poetry, nor is it befitting for him, because he is the Nabi of Allah. He was unlettered, as you know. He did not know how to read or write, first of all. So this was another great, great miracle of the Quran. As far as poetry itself, there are some narrations that the Prophet ﷺ would actually like to listen to poetry. But, it was never to the extent that, it would, of course, sway him from anything. These were all good things that he might have asked one of his companions to listen to. In fact, there is a narration from Ibn Umar, uh, radiallahu anhuma, that I'll read it here for you. A question was asked to Ibn Sirin. I asked Muhammad ibn Sirin, this is Qurra bin Khalid, he says, may Allah have mercy on both of them. Did the companions have fun? This was the question asked. Did the companions have fun? And they said, the answer Ibn Sirin gave was, they were not but people. Meaning they were human beings. Of course, you're going to have fun. And Ibn Umar radiallahu anh, he said, they would have fun and compose songs of poetry. So this is one of the ways they used to enjoy themselves through poetry. The Arabs at that time were masters in poetry, so much so a lot of the older poetry is used to derive Arabic rules and grammar. It was very eloquent speech, eloquent poetry. So um, it is something that the Sahabas will do also, but they wouldn't do anything bad. It wouldn't be anything that would take people away. It wasn't vain talk, but it was beneficial poetry, and they were really good at it. And nowadays, I can't really find a youth or someone from the youth that is good at poetry. It's pretty rare. We have a chat here to ask questions, but I'm getting a text on the side too. I think another brother was teasing me, saying, I'm thinking of beautiful singers. May Allah guide you, brother. Anyway, see, that's one of the effects of music too. You think about the person more than the actual song. Anyway, so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala guide us to the best of speech, the best of things that are pleasing to Him, and those things that allow us to come closer to Him. There's nothing wrong with enjoying yourself once in a while if you want to listen to a nasheed, that brings benefit. That's it kind of opens up the mind sometimes as well. So I thought I'd mention this. It's something really to look into. And remember, check out the folks that I mentioned. There's Buna Muhammad, brother Buna Muhammad, who does spoken word. And then for songs without music, this brother is doing an amazing job. His name is Omar Isa. Check them both out on YouTube, inshallah. So with that, I'll close today's hadith, and let's do a quick recap of the last 19. Remember, we do this recap so you can, this is a review session, basically, for you to memorize them and remember them. This is the only way you'll memorize it. When you memorize one thing one day and move on to another thing the next day, you have to review what you memorized the previous day. So this way, when you get to 30, inshallah, you guys will have it down pretty well. Hadith number 1, Ad-Din al-Nasiha, the religion is sincerity, recorded by Imam Muslim. Hadith number 2, Ad-Du'a Mukhul Ibadah, supplication is the essence of worship, recorded by Imam At-Tirmidhi. Hadith number 3, Al-Mar'u ma'a man ahabba, a person will be with whom he loves, recorded by Imam Bukhari and Muslim. Hadith number 4, Hubbuka shay'a yu'mi wa yusim, your love of something might render you blind and deaf, recorded by Imam Abu Dawood. Hadith number 5, Al-Anatu min Allahi wal-Ajalatu min ash-Shaytan, calmness is from Allah and haste is from Shaitan, recorded by Imam At-Tirmidhi. Hadith number 6, Al-Haya'u la ya'ti illa bi khair, modesty does not bring anything but goodness, recorded by Imam Bukhari. Hadith number 7, At-Tuhuru shatrul iman, purity is half of faith, recorded by Imam Muslim. Hadith number 8, Al-Khamru Jumma'u al-Ithm, alcohol constitutes many sins, recorded by Imam Razin. Hadith number 9, Inna Allaha Jamilun yuhibbul Jamal, Allah is beautiful, He loves beauty, recorded by Imam Muslim. Hadith number 10, La darara wa la dirar, do not cause harm or return harm, recorded by Ibn Majah. Hadith number 11, Man samata najah, whoever is silent has been saved, recorded by Imam At-Tirmidhi. Hadith number 12, La taghdab, do not be angry or do not get angry, recorded by Imam Bukhari. Hadith number 13, Anzilu nasa manazilahum, treat people according to their status, recorded by Imam Abu Dawood. Hadith number 14, Man lam yashkur nas lam yashkurillah, he who does not thank people does not thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, recorded by Imam At-Tirmidhi. Hadith number 15, Inna dhulma dhulumatu yawm al-qiyamah, verily oppression will be darkness on the day of judgment, recorded by Imam Bukhari. Hadith number 16, Yassiru wa la tu'assiru wa sakkinu wa la tunaffiru, make things easy for people and do not make it difficult for them, and make them calm with glad tidings and do not repulse them, recorded by Imam Bukhari. Hadith number 17, Lu'ina abadu dinar wa lu'ina abadu dirham, accursed is the slave of the dinar and the slave of the dirham, meaning the slave of money, recorded by Imam At-Tirmidhi. Then we have hadith number 18, Man ghashana falaysa minna, Whoever deceives us is not from us. Recorded by Imam Muslim, hadith number 19 from yesterday. Inna min al-bayani la sihra. Verily in speech there is magic. Recorded by Imam Bukhari. And today's hadith, Inna min al-shi'ri hikmah. And verily in poetry there is wisdom. Recorded by Imam Bukhari. So with that, we'll conclude today's session. And as we always do, we'll we'll end with a dua. I actually did a dua on Sunday and I forgot to do it on Monday. So let me go back to that one, inshallah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, subhanallah al-azim. اللهم أعنا ولا تعن علينا وانصرنا ولا تنصر علينا وامكر لنا ولا تمكر علينا واهدنا ويسر الهدى لنا وانصرنا على من بغى علينا اللهم اجعلنا لك شكارين لك ذكارين لك رهابين لك مطواعين لك مخبتين إليك أواهين منيبين اللهم تقبل توبتنا واغسل حوبتنا وأجب دعوتنا وثبت حجتنا وسدد ألسنتنا واهد قلوبنا واسلل سخيمة قلوبنا يا ذا الجلال والإكرام وصل اللهم على نبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه والتابعين. We sent this hadith to you. You'll find it on the group already, the dua. Beautiful dua that you can recite in with a prayer or anytime. Oh Allah, help me and do not help against me. Support me and do not support against me. Plan for me and do not plan against me or plot against me. Guide me and make guidance easy for me. Support me against those who transgress me. Oh Allah, make me grateful to you. Make me mindful of you. Make me fearful of you. Make me obedient to you, humble to you, turning to you and repenting to you. Oh Allah, accept my repentance, wash away my sins, answer my supplications, establish my proof, direct my tongue, guide my heart, and remove hatred from my chest or my heart. Beautiful dua. Inshallah, check it out on the group if you haven't seen it already. And you can recite it by looking at it. I recited it in the plural form. I sent it to you in the singular. So when you recite it, just follow the singular form, inshallah. And that will conclude for tonight. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.